Protection Bill 2019 has been passed, as I said, on July 30, 2019, and then Rajya Sabha passed on August 6, 2019, because you need the approval from both the houses. Now this bill was introduced in the parliament by the Minister of Consumer Affairs, Food and Public Distribution, Mr. Ram Vilas Paswan. So this is a very important point you have to remember. Now, what is the meaning of Consumer Protection Act 2019? See, it is a law to protect the interests of the consumers. Now, this act was inevitable. You couldn't stop it, to resolve the large number of pending consumer complaints in consumer courts across the country. So, it has ways and means to solve the consumer grievances speedily. Now, as I said, this is the basic end, is to control the rights and establishing authorities for timely and effective administration for the settlement of the consumer disputes. Now, what is the definition of consumer? So, as per the Act, a consumer, a person is called a consumer who avails the services and buys any goods for self-use. Word to mention that if a person buys any goods and avail any service for resale or commercial purpose, it is not considered as a consumer. So, this definition covers all types of transaction, that is online and offline. Now, what are the key features? First is there is an establishment of Central Protection Authority, that is called as CCPA. Now, this act will protect, promote and enforce the right of the consumers. And the CCA will also have the right to impose on various and will pass the orders to recall the goods or withdraw or discontinue wherever they see any unfair trade practices, and they will also reimburse the price paid to the consumer. Now, the Central Consumer Protection Agency Authority will also have an investigation way to inquire and investigate such violations, and there will be a header also here. So the CCPA will be headed by the Director General. So yes, there will be a rights of consumers also. So the acts provide lots of rights to the consumer. Let's see the rights. So first is to have information about the quantity, quality, purity, potency, price and standard of goods and services. Second is it is to be protected from hazardous goods and services. Third, it is to be protected from unfair or restrictive trade practices. Fourth, to have a variety of goods or services at competitive prices. The third good feature of this Consumer Protection Act is there is a prohibition and penalty for misleading of advertisement or advertisement. So the Central Consumer Protection Authority, CCPA, will have the power to impose fines on the endorser or manufacturer up to 2-year imprisonment for misleading or false advertisement, like Lakshmi Dhan Varsha Yantra. So this was a very, if you remember, there was this is to happen, and this Lakshmi Dhan Varsha Yantra has stopped, and yes, the owner has also gone into 2-year imprisonment. And what to mention that if you keep on doing the same offence again and again, you will be fined for rupees 50 lakhs, and there will be an imprisonment up to 5 years. Yes, there is a Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission. So the Act has provision of establishment of Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission, that is called as CDRs. Okay, so when can you complain? When there is a deceptive charging, when there is unfair or restrictive trade practices, then there is a sale of hazardous goods and services, when there is a sale of defective goods and services. Now, where is the jurisdiction, which is the area? Now, the Act has defined the criteria of Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission. So, the national CDRC will hear complaints worth more than rupees 10 crores. Okay, and the state CDRC will hear complaints when the value is more than rupees 1 crore but less than rupees 10 crore. While the district CDRC will entertain complaints when the value of goods or services up to rupees 1 crore. So this is the way the division has been done. Now coming to the next one, what is the meaning of Operation Twist of the RBI? So at present, India's GDP is continuously declining due to high interest rates and economic uncertainty. People are not borrowing money from banks, and in such an environment, the Reserve Bank of India has decided that it will now promote long-term investment in the country through Operation Twist. Now, India's central bank RBI has launched Operation Twist on 23 December 2019, and this operation has been launched to increase the long term investment in the country. Before knowing the history, we must know also the Operation Twist has an history. Okay, so actually the Operation Twist was first used in a dance in America. A dance of Chubby Checker became very famous in the year 1961, and in the dance, Chubby danced while twisting his feet. Okay, so when he twisted his feet, it was called as twist. Okay, so what to mention, the US economy was recovering from the recession post the Korean War, everybody knows about it, 1961. And at that time there was a Kennedy administration going on. He wanted to boost the spending in the economy of America by using the Operation Twist. So however, the US Federal Reserve has used Operation Twist between 2011 also, 2012 also, to bring down long term interest rate in the country's money market. Now it is clear from the picture given below also that the Federal Bank first sold short term securities and then bought long term securities with that money. Okay, so basically, as I told you, it is also used in open market operations. Also, you can sell long term securities and short term securities. Okay, and in Operation Twist, what happens is the short term securities are converted into the long term securities. Okay, as I told you also that securities worth 10,000 crores have been done through open market operations, and the short term securities, they are purchased long term securities of the same value. And this maturity period, that's a very interesting factor, of the short term securities was up to 2020, but the maturity period of long term securities is for 10 years. It can go up to 2029. Now the sole purpose of this twist is to moderate the high long-term interest rates in the market and to bring them closer to the repo rate. I had already explained to you in the previous classes what is the meaning of repo rate and what is the meaning of the reverse repo rate. Okay, now what is the advantage? So people will be interested in taking loans in the large quantities to purchase houses, set up industries, okay, and they will get loans at cheaper rates. So at this juncture, people are not investing, so the demand is decreasing in every sector, like the reduction in demand for homes, cars, etc. So now the government wants to provide cheaper loan through Operation Twist. So right now the loans are become very, very cheap. Let's come to the next topic, that is Form 26As. Now Form 26A, so we have heard Form number 16, Form number 16. So what is Form 26As? So Form 26A is your annual tax statement. So you can find it from the website of the Income Tax Department with the help of your PAN number. So Form 26AS contains information about the tax you paid to the government. Okay, now the income tax is working hard to abolish the culture of tax evasion in India, and there are various tools and forms have been introduced to ensure that there must be total transparency. So recently the government has introduced the Form 26AS, okay, and this is the total transparency. You can go ahead and you can see that how much tax are you paying, and this assessment statement starts from 2020 to 21. You can see it, and this form will also show all the details about the high value transactions made by the taxpayers. Now why was this launched? Okay, the finance minister has launched it, because the Central Board of Taxes, CBDT, said that the Income Tax Department used to receive higher value information like sale, then purchase of immovable property, cash, deposit, withdrawal from saving bank accounts, okay, then purchase of shares, then buyback of shares, debenture, time deposits, foreign currency, credit card payments, purchase of mutual funds, cash payment for goods and services, and etc. from the special institutions like banks, registrars or sub-registrars, mutual funds and bond issuing institutions. Okay, so that is why they thought of getting this Form 26A, so that they also can have a check, and even the consumers or the taxpayers can also see what they are investing. Coming to the next term. The next term is called as crony capitalism. So it is an indicator of the state of the economy where success in business is determined by the mutual relationship between the businessman and the government officials. So it's a very, very important term. And as I said also, this is basically used in the capitalist society, okay, and where there is a business is depending on the nexus or the group between a political class and a business class, rather a free market and the rule of law. So the success of a business is depending on the favoritism that is shown by the government in the form of government grants. Right now, if you can see the US election, this is what is going on. Crony capitalism is going on in the US elections right now. And in the form of government grants, tax pay. So the, in the campaigning also, if you see various like Donald Trump and Biden, they are trying to give favoritisms to its business groups, okay, by legal permits, by free fixed tenders, pro business policies, and other favorable incentives. So now it calculates how economic activity. So Crony capitalism index is a index which calculates the economic activities occurs in industries to cronism. Okay. So as I said also in the Crony Capital Index 2014, if you see, Germany was the cleanest country where just a businessman or a billionaire of the country fetches his wealth from crony sectors. Okay. On the other hand, if you see, Russia was among the worst countries where 18% of the country's wealth comes from the country's crony sectors. Now, India was ranked at the 9th position in the crony capitalism, where crony sector wealth accounting for 3.4% GDP of the country, and the non-crony sector wealth amounts to 8.3. So that means the non-wealth crony sector we are more keen to. And in crony capitalism index also, if you see, Russia was the worst country, followed by Malaysia on the second rank, then we have Philippines on the third rank, and Singapore on the fourth rank. Now talking about a very interesting thing, the list of Maharatna and the Navratna companies in India. Okay, so as of now in January 2020, if you see, India has 10 Maharatna companies, 14 Navratna companies, and 73 Mini Ratna companies, divided into category 1 and category 2. Okay, so PS, public sector units may be classified into central public sector enterprises and public sector banks or state level public sector enterprises. Okay, they are all administered by the Ministry of Heavy Industries and Public Enterprises. Okay, now the Department of Public Enterprises is the nodal department for all the central public sector enterprises. Okay, and so the DPE formulates policies regarding the CPSEs. Now these policies are mainly related to performance improvement and evaluation, autonomy and financial delegation, and personal management. So as of now, January 2020, if you see, there are 10 Maharatnas and 14 Navratna companies in India. Okay, so let us just see the list of Maharatna companies in India. So the first one is BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electrical Limited. Then we have Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited. Then we have Coal India Limited. Then we have GAIL India Limited. Then we have Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited. Then we have Indian Oil Corporation Limited. Then we have NTPC in the 7th position. 8th we have Oil and Natural Gas Corporation Limited, ONGC, that is. Power Grid Corporation of India, 9th position. Then we have SAIL, that is Steel Authority of India. Okay, we can move on. Let's talk about, as I said, the list of Navratna companies in India. So we have BHEL, then we have Container Corporation of India Limited, then we have Engineers India Limited, then we have HAL, that is Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, then we have Mahanagar Telephone Nigam Limited, MTNL, then we have National Aluminium Company Limited, then we have NBCC Limited, NMDC Limited, NLC India, we have Oil India Limited, we have Power Finance Corporation Limited, then we have Rashtriya Ispat Nigam Limited, we have Rural Electrification Corporation Limited, we have Shipping Corporation of India Limited. Coming to the next topic, what is sinking fund? So a sinking fund is a kind of fund in which a fixed amount is deposited at a regular interval. So sinking fund is like a recurring deposit, and after some years this fund turns into a huge collection of funds that are further used to repay the previous debt taken by the government or any company. And it is also, the sinking fund is also called as the debit remittance funds, because the amount deposited in it is used to repay the debt in the future, and the government or any company does not have to suffer much in repaying the loan in the maturity area of the loan. This is also like a recurring deposit account in the bank. Now the 12th Finance Commission, this is very interesting, 2005-10, has recommended the creation of sinking fund. So this fund is separate from the consolidated fund, so do not get confused here, of state and public accounts. Okay, so this Finance Commission also said that the money deposit in it should be used only to repay the debt of the state government, and it is not for any other purpose. So the economic slowdown, we all know, due to COVID-19, it is necessary to make India Atmanirbhar. And so in this, solar power sector, as we had already spoken, can play an important role. So according to the Observer Research Foundation, that is ORF, ramping up of solar energy generation and equipment manufacturing can make the economy of India sustainable and Atmanirbhar. So solar power, so now basically I'm going to talk about is the solar power and how we can combat into this deadly virus. Okay, so and how we can become Atmanirbhar. So as per the announcement made by the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, focusing towards making India, therefore India's solar energy has a welcoming opportunity to boost the domestic economy and make it economies self-reliant during the post-pandemic era. So India's ambition is very great. Its target of achieving 100 gigawatts of solar capacity by 2022 has been disrupted from China due to the coronavirus. So if China would have not given us this coronavirus, I guess we would have achieved this goal pretty fast. Now, as you see, this is not only India, there are many countries who are generating plans for the recovery of economic growth, and in fact several debates have been started to choose the correct economic growth model. So do you know that the old quantitative economic growth model was dependent on fossil fuels for energy, and the new qualitative economic growth model dependent on renewable energy. So in fact, if you see, major countries in the world have shown a clear shift from old economic growth model to a new economic growth model. So I'll give you an example. So like European Green Deal should be central to a resilient recovery after the COVID-19. Okay, so South Korea is also implementing the Green New Deal after ruling party election wins. Now, what is India's stand in this? Now, India has showed a commitment to use clean, green, renewable energy for economic growth. Okay, so as I said, India has showed a commitment to use clean, as I said, yeah, so India has showed a commitment to use clean, green, renewable energy for economic growth. So by 2022, if you see, India has set itself 175 gigawatts energy capacity, which includes 100 gigawatts of solar and 60 gigawatts of wind power capacity. Okay, so now the generation of solar energy and solar equipment manufacturing sector has not received the due importance due to the in the Atmanirbhar. So we had to do it more in a much better manner, but it has not been achieved in the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. But let's see, we still have time, so let's see how we can enhance the solar energy and solar equipments. Okay, so let's come to the next topic. So now how Atmanirbhar will, like solar power related with Atmanirbhar, that's really confusing. Yes, no doubt India has a great solar power capacity, okay, because in tropical area we have 300 clear sunny days in a year. So in various ways there is a development, it will create employment, it will lead to rural development, it will reduce the fuel import bills, it will reduce the dependency on oil producing countries. There will be installation of power generation units at a faster rate. Also, it will support a very clean environment and will enhance the quality of life. So that is also very, very important. Now, Coming to the next one, so this was all about solar energy. Now let's talk about pay commission. Now pay commission is like 7 pay commission I will talk about. There are many questions which come in Indian economics based on pay commission. Okay, so pay commission is established in India to make a reasonable salary of central and state government employees so that they can be motivated for their duties. Okay, so basically this is a very important topic, especially for current affairs. Okay, so let's see what questions can come. The first one was, who was the chairman of the 7 Pay Commission? The answer is B, that is Justice A.K. Singh Mathur. Okay, he was basically, it was constituted, the PM, the former was PM Manmohan Singh, and it was taken by 7 Pay Commission under the chairmanship of Justice A.K. Singh Mathur on 25th September 2013. Now, since when the recommendations of 7 Pay Commission were implemented? The answer is A. It was implemented on 1st January 2016. Third question. When was the first Pay Commission established in India? Yes, the answer is it was established in 1946. Okay. Since then, there is the 7 Pay Commission which has been set up also. Who was the chairman of the first Pay Commission in India? So the answer is Srinivas Vadaracharyar. Okay, so Srinivas Vadaracharyar was in January. He was the first Pay Commission of India, was set up under the chairman of Srinivas Vadaracharyar in January 1946. Now, the composition of Pay Commission comes under which department? So it comes under the Ministry of Finance. Okay, now which of the following options is not matched properly? So if you see first Pay Commission, the second Pay Commission, the fifth Pay Commission and the sixth Pay Commission. So here the answer is not properly matched is answer B. That is, the chairman of second Pay Commission was Mr. Jagannath Das, and the third commission was headed by Raghubir Dayal. So that is why the B option is wrong. How much financial burden put on central government in the first year of 2016? The financial burden was almost rupees 1 lakh crores. Okay, and so the spending on pensions, spending on lots of things, and that is why it has increased. As for the 7th Pay Commission, what was the minimum pay of central government employees? So the minimum payment was 18,000 per month for any central government jobs. What is the maximum pay in the 7th Pay Commission? So the maximum pay is rupees 2.50 lakhs per month. Okay. Now this apex scale would be given to the Chief Secretary of the states, Union Secretaries in charge of various ministries of the Government of India. Okay, now let's talk about very important topic, that is minimum support price of paddy common, which is increased to 1868 per quintal for the 2021 season. Now the government announces minimum support prices for 22 mandated crops on the recommendations of the Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices, that is called as CACP. So this is very important current affair which I am giving you for Indian economics. Now, what about India's trade in China? Can we just remove India? Can we remove China from our trade partner? The answer is no. And why? I'll tell you, because India's trade with China was 87.07 billions in 2018-19. In this duration, if you see, India has imported almost $70.32 US dollars in 2019-18. While Indian has only exported to China was only 16. So exports are less, imports are more. So it means that India's trade deficit with China was 53.57 billion in 2018 and 19. So India sends only 8% of its total exports to China, whereas China sends only 2% of its total exports to India. So you can understand this ratio. So definitely in these circumstances, I don't think we can completely eradicate China as a trade partner. Okay, so the status report on government debt for 2018, if you see in 19, that the total public debt of the country has increased. It has increased a lot, 68.6% of GDP by March 2019, which in simple terms has gone up to 1.3 trillion or rupees 1.3 crores. Now let's coming to the next one, that is called as permanent account number. So did you know that electronic PAN card allocation process has been started in India, and this is a paperless facility which is being issued by the income tax department. So instant PAN card facility has been started from 20th May 28th May 2020. So basically, there, according to the Universal Basic Income, that is UBI, in the Economic Survey 2016 and 17 also, the Finance Ministry Arun Jaitley advocated the Universal Basic Income Scheme, that is UBI, in place of various social welfare schemes in the country. And why was this done? Why was this done? It's very important. It was done in effort to reduce the poverty and inequality in the country. So this universal basic income scheme has also, it's a survey and which is started from 2016 and 17. So this is also a very relevant current affair topic for Indian economics. So thank you so much. I hope you have understood the entire syllabus of Indian economics. Thank you so much and have a nice day.